Mueller here with you on this Tuesday, January 20th. The time is now 6 a.m., which means it's time to check in with meteorologist Megan Desmel for a look at your forecast this morning. Megan, something I was thinking about this morning is how much I wish my personal car had a heated steering wheel like my work car does, because that's like life-changing.
Oh, it is. I am so excited. I have a school visit today. It has a heated steering wheel, so at least that'll make me feel a little bit better, and heated seats if I'm not mistaken. But no, my car doesn't. If you do have that, make sure that's engaged. You're going to need it. It's cold, and thankfully it's nice and clear as we're looking at satellite and radar this morning. Relatively dry start to the day. Just a little bit of those clouds in portions of Rowan County, Elliott, Lawrence, and Wayne County, West Virginia. But don't worry, they're dissipating, and we'll look at sunshine all day long once that sun does eventually rise. But temperatures as we're beginning off the day are in the upper single digits and low teens. We're really looking in between 8 degrees in Monticello to 15 degrees in Middlesboro. There is the exception of Whitesburg, which is a little bit warmer at 18, but those feels like temperatures are definitely brutal this morning. High temperatures will be getting into the upper 20s and low 30s around that 3 o'clock time frame. Caroline.
All right, thanks, Megan. And speaking of those cool temperatures, an Arctic weather pattern is bringing unusually frigid weather to much of the country, including parts of Florida. Blinding whiteouts lead to this massive 100-vehicle pileup in western Michigan. A dozen injuries were reported. A rare snowstorm dusted parts of Alabama, Georgia, and Florida with 1 to 3 inches over the weekend. And there are dangerous wind chills well below zero in many cities across the northeastern U.S. Protests are spreading in places around the country over federal immigration enforcement. They've been met with increasing counter-protests and threats from President Trump to send in troops to the epicenter of it all, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Bradley Blackburn is tracking the latest.
Protests continue in Minneapolis over federal immigration enforcement tactics. Nearly 2 weeks after the death of Renee Good, who was fatally shot by an ICE agent, the ICE surge continues too. This man was taken by ICE agents from his home in St. Paul, Minnesota over the weekend, but returned an hour later. His family says because he is a U.S. citizen with no criminal record. DHS says he matched the description of convicted sex offenders they were targeting who also live at the address. U.S. defense official tells CBS News some 1,500 active duty soldiers in Alaska are on standby for possible deployment to Minneapolis. President Trump has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act to quell protests there.
If I needed it, I'd use it. It's very powerful.
Overnight on social media, President Trump called anti-ICE protesters who interrupted a church service over the weekend agitators and insurrectionists. The protesters accused one of the pastors at the church of working with ICE. The Justice Department is now considering federal charges against them.
We want ICE off our streets.
On Monday's Martin Luther King Day holiday, anti-ICE protests were held from New York City to Philadelphia to Richmond, Virginia.
We need to shut down all detention centers in Virginia.
In Texas, ICE officials reported the death of a 36-year-old detainee from Nicaragua of what ICE described as a presumed suicide. He was being held at an ICE facility near El Paso, where another detainee died earlier this month. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
Some lawmakers and civil rights advocates are calling for the ICE detention facility in El Paso to be shut down immediately, claiming that 2 deaths in a month show conditions there are worsening. On Wednesday, the Supreme Court is expected to hear oral arguments in the case of President Donald Trump's unprecedented attempt to fire Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. The case could have serious ramifications for the Federal Reserve and the economy at large. Trump tried to fire Cook last summer after allegations she committed mortgage fraud. She denies any wrongdoing and warned that a ruling in favor of Trump's interference would negatively impact the central bank's independence, as well as the stability of the financial markets. Very few Americans think the government has released enough files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. A new poll shows just 6% are satisfied with what the Justice Department has made public. Most Democrats and 72% of independents say the government is holding back information. 42% of Republicans agree. The survey shows more Democrats and fewer Republicans are starting to say the information matters. Congress gave the Justice Department until December 19th to release the files. Some in the medical community are calling new research the best evidence to date that using acetaminophen during pregnancy is not linked to autism. A review of 43 studies published in a Lancet journal finds taking acetaminophen during pregnancy, the active ingredient in pain reliever Tylenol, does not increase the risk of autism, ADHD, or intellectual disabilities in children. In September, the Trump administration said taking the pain reliever while pregnant might increase autism risk.
Pregnant women should know that taking Tylenol during pregnancy is not going to increase the risk of autism in their child. And in fact, an untreated fever during pregnancy has been shown to increase the risk of neurodevelopmental issues.
This rigorous review looked at millions of births around the world and included siblings of mothers who took acetaminophen during one pregnancy and not the other. This allowed researchers to factor out the genetics involved in autism and just focus on the risk of using acetaminophen. More than half a dozen medical groups are suing to reverse changes made to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's childhood vaccine recommendations. Groups including the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American College of Physicians filed the suit on Monday. It calls the change in vaccine recommendations reckless and dangerous and should be declared unlawful. The Department of Health and Human Services made changes to the vaccine schedule for children earlier this month. Now it recommends that vaccines to prevent hepatitis A and hepatitis B and meningitis only be given to children at higher risk of infection. A new CBS News poll shows how Americans feel about the economy a year into President Trump's second term. 74% say the president is not focused enough on lowering prices, while 23% say he's focused the right amount. 67% say their income is not keeping up with inflation. President Trump and Republicans still got slightly higher marks than Democrats on the question of who has the better approach to economic policy at 33 to 27%, though 39% said they don't know. Across the nation, Americans celebrated the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on the federal holiday that honors his work and legacy. People gathered around the King Memorial in Washington, D.C. to remember the civil rights leader, while a peace walk and parade was held in the streets of the nation's capital in Oxnard, California, outside Los Angeles. A high school band helped lead a freedom march. And in Chicago, the Rainbow Push Coalition hosted its 2026 Dr. King annual breakfast, bringing together leaders to discuss his fight for equality.
People like my dad, Henry, who marched from Selma to Montgomery because he believed change was possible when good people refused to stay silent. When he was asked why he marched, he simply said, "I didn't like how human beings were being treated." It sounds familiar, doesn't it? This is our moment to choose courage over comfort, to choose faith over fear.
The third Monday in January was designated a national holiday in King's honor in 1983, 15 years after he was assassinated on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. One Floyd County teen is diving into her faith, recently debuting as an author with a new devotional. WIMT's Buddy Forbes has a peek at the pages.
For years, I built walls and called them safety. I held my breath and called it strength. I numbed the ache and called it faith.
15-year-old Carly Artrip is more than a Prestonsburg academic. She is also a published author.
And it started with a pen and paper on my bed. I'm not usually one to journal down my thoughts, but I just felt the sudden urge from God to sit down with paper, and then words just started flowing out miraculously.
The sophomore penned a Christian devotional all about finding God between the pages, full of poetry and faith-based journal reflections that she never expected to share with anyone.
When I finally read back over it, I said, this is such a great opportunity for the world to see faith in children still.
She says the response she has received since the book has been available is exactly what she hoped.
Sometimes clarity feels heavy.
Opening up conversations about faith.
And I don't want to take any of the credit for it because truly God has put this on my heart. All I did is just obey him and his word. And I'm just so thankful that he's blessed me with open doors.
And encouraging people of all ages to trust their journeys.
You're not too young to do anything.
While taking life one page at a time.
Yeah, God can do all of this, and he brings it all together at the end. So even in your worrying moments, he is there for you, and he will bring it together.
Buddy Forbes, WYMT Mountain News.
You can find the book on Amazon, and our trip hopes to have it in local stores soon.
And we're looking at cold temperatures still this morning as you're heading out the door. For the most part, we're looking at the low teens. However, some folks are in those single digits, 9 in London, 8 in Monticello. And this is not including the wind chill. Those feels like temperatures this morning are definitely much colder in the low to mid single digits. So make sure you're wearing your layers, which you'll need all day long, as highs only make it to the upper 20s for many of our northern counties and the low 30s for more of our southern counties. Altogether, though, very cold all day long with just a little bit of clouds this morning, but for the most part, we'll be looking at plenty of sunshine all day long with high temperatures around 3 to 4 p.m. Stay with us. More mountain news is on the way.